and welcome to the Box Angeles podcast with me. I'm your host, Mike Elder. If you're new to the show, you're here. You're safe now. I'm glad you found it. Also, if you're new, go over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoxAngeles. Subscribe. All of these episodes are up there. Full video, bunch of clips, good stuff. And that's the best way to support this program. So without further ado, we've got a new episode this week. Sorry, it's been a delay for a new episode for a few months, but I got a lot lined up. So get ready for a new episode week after week after week here coming up soon. Very exciting. But today, this week, we've got the great actor, improviser, comedian, funny man, Brendan Jennings. I absolutely love Brendan. I know him back from my iOS days in Hollywood. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met, and he's on one of the funniest improv teams I've ever seen, Cook County Social Club. Speaking of which, they have a show this Wednesday. This week it's coming out at UCB. That show should be sold out. I would encourage you to go if you are in LA because they are one of the funniest groups, and Brendan is the most ridiculous, insane of the group, and everyone else tries to reel him in. But it's great. Go to that show. Brendan is here this week. The conversation was so fun. We talked about his journey. He did the podcast 10 years ago, which is crazy, so we had a lot to catch up on. Like, he wrote on AP Bio for a number of seasons. He was also on AP Bio. You also have seen him on shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Parks and Rec, Night Court, Superstore. He's such a goofball. I absolutely love him. We talked about his confidence. We talked about self-tapes. It was a really fun, deep conversation, and it doesn't disappoint. So the wait for a new episode was worth it. I think you're going to really dig this. So without further ado, I give you
Brendan Jennings.
Brendan, it's so good to see you.
This is it. We're into it.
We're into it.
That's the number one thing that happens on every podcast. Probably, this is it. We're in it.
Yes. Well, I wanted to get into it because you just started crying about your voice and being sad about your voice. And lately, all my podcasts are some form of therapy.
Yeah.
So tell us what's wrong with your voice, Brendan.
It's something I never think about until I have to start doing one of these things. A voiceover audition or a podcast. I'm instantly like, I sound like a witch. I don't know.
Well, your laugh definitely does.
It really makes me realize what I am. I feel like I walk around Hollywood in my head. I think I'm like George Clooney, but truthfully, I'm like, if there was a Western, I'd be like the coward in a bowler hat, just being like, oh, gee, ooh. And it's hard to come reckon with that until all of a sudden a microphone's in your face and you're like, oh, that's right. My voice is this.
I'm closing my eyes to just listen to you. I don't think it's that bad until you get insecure and then you're like, wait, what?
Well, yeah, and I'm also, we did this a long time ago in the old setup and these cameras now. I'm doubly nervous because I'm like, do I look like fucking Paul Blart or whatever?
The last thing I want to do is make people feel so self-conscious when they come on the podcast.
No, this is it. You break us down.
I've made you super self-conscious.
But now I'm vulnerable. Now you can hit me with like poignant questions. My glasses are fogging up.
You're wide. You're wide. You're ripe for the taking.
Yeah. You mentioned me, Mike.
You mentioned the last time you did this podcast. So for those that don't know, you did this podcast. I looked it up. Do you know how long ago it was?
5 years?
10 years ago.
Shut up. No way. Ow. I just shin the microphone. 10 years.
April 2015.
That can't be.
Isn't that wild?
That's really wild.
Yeah, we had the Cook County Social Week where I had all three of you on from Cook County Social Club.
I can't believe we've been out here 10 years.
I can't either. At least one of those people from Cook County Social Club Week has moved back.
That's right. Mark is back in Chicago. So much has changed. 10 years. Wow.
Well, I do think a lot has changed. But the first thing I want to talk about, by the way, congrats on Xavier.
Thank you.
Xavier won their game last night.
Xavier won, and now I get to relive it all again Friday.
I was watching it, cheering for you.
Thanks, bud.
I was like, I can't wait to talk to Brendan about this tomorrow. But no, what I want to talk to you about first, though, is speaking of Cook County Social Club, do you realize, and this is where we build your confidence back up, which I don't know where you get your confidence from.
That's your witch voice.
Do you still, do you realize how much of a superpower you have with improv? Because I've gone to so many of your shows lately at UCB. You guys do the first Friday, 7th Friday of the month or whatever.
Yeah, it's always changing.
But I've gone to at least 4 in the last year, and you guys are so, probably more than that. You are just so fun. You just bring so much joy.
That's very nice of you to say. I'm aware of it. Only I'm aware of that's where I feel the most comfortable. Like if anybody were to ever be like, what's the best version of yourself as a performer or something, I'd say come see Cook County Social Club, because like you said, I kind of don't know what it is, but I'm so comfortable on stage with those guys in front of an audience versus, come into this like weird commercial audition. I don't feel like if we were like grading on 100% or not, it's like I'm definitely not 100% walking into like a Quiznos commercial. But
Quiznos is going to come calling now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, please, God, I love a Quizno. But it is. I love a Quizno. But it's that weird thing of like I wish I could make whatever I was doing on stage translate to what those like weird rooms, because especially like I don't know, commercial audition, they make you improvise so much. It's not real improv though. I don't know, but yeah, that's very nice of you to say. I do feel amazingly comfortable up there. It's still my favorite thing to do, even though as 10 years has gone on, it's harder to get up and go do. And I'm always like, what am I doing? And then you get out there and it's a blast. So it's like, yeah, I still really love it.
Well, I try to take new people to your guys' shows because honestly, I hate to say this, but I think you guys are so slept on, which breaks my heart. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't sell out that show every month.
Well, it's great that you're there, and there's like this. It is kind great of like whole. Well, it is like we saw each other one of the ones when we first came back. And we're on whatever like 20th Sunday was. It was like so good to see. First off, you show up and you're like, God, I hope an audience is there, because that's the thing. It's like, who the fuck remembers you? The other thing is we're like the old men of improv now. We're not those young bucks we were 10 years ago. So you do get like nervous, like, will anybody be there? Will it fucking matter? And then like I see you, we see all these people who used to come to the show all the time. And I don't know, it's like a boon to the spirit. What you need out here.
Yeah, I had that happen recently. I went and saw Heyday randomly in the Valley with our friend Jen Gardner.
Yeah.
Who's blowing up now, by the way. But and there was a bunch of old IO people there. Craig Kakowski, who I talked to, who's going to come do the podcast in a week because of that. But like, it was a small theater in the Valley, and it was packed because it was small. But it felt like it wouldn't have been UCB packed, but it was packed for this thing, and it was perfect because the energy was just. And it felt like just like a really cool experience. And the show was really, even the openers were really good. And it was just like, that's hard to come by, it feels like these days.
Yeah. And it's a nice reminder to me of why I love like performing. Cause you forget that when you like sit in your house for like 2 years or a fucking strike happens and you're not working for so long. It dulls whatever that flame is. And then to go back out and like, we're not selling out UCB, but that space is so great. But like, and it's full enough that it like you feel connected to the audience.
Yeah.
And I love it. I don't know. It still really makes me happy to do.
Yeah. Well, but, let me ask you, because when I try to take, like I said, more people there that I haven't seen you, and everybody always comments on how ridiculous you are. How do you think and I don't want to go to like improv theory or anything, but like, how do you get away with, and I mean this is the nicest way, how do you get away with being so wacky? Like, you are just so playful and ridiculous at times, and you'll just start doing a random bullshit character, but it's like the funniest thing anyone's ever seen. And then Greg and Mark are so good at, making it work, but you just go out way out there, they bring it in, but I don't know where does that come from that you just feel like, we'll figure this out and I can go way out there? Because that's what you do, and that's what makes it so fun.
Well, with the cook guy, well, I kind of do it with everything. It is just I commit 100% to it.
Yeah. Well, not 89%.
As much as I can. And I love doing it, and I kind of don't give a crap if the audience likes if I do it or not. And then there's something about this. Now we've talked about my voice. Let's talk about my face. I kind of get away with more shit because I got this fucking goof ass face. I've had people like say like, I can say some pretty filthy things, and people be like, I could never say that, and you can. And it's just like, I think it's like the wonky eye, the witch voice, and the goofy potato face.
I love that we just figured out how you feel about yourself, which is totally not how anyone else feels about you.
Yeah, but I don't. When you like get forced to self-reflect on things like this, I guess it comes back to that. And then, as for that, it's just like getting away with like big goofy stuff. It's what makes me laugh. It's I maybe do that too much on Cook County. Like I think we've hit a point where Cook County, like we've been cruising for so long. All our shows, even our bad shows, are pretty good. Not to blow us, but we've been doing it for a long time. So, but there's also a thing of now we're starting to do it a lot more for ourselves, which it'd be nice to, if we started doing shows more regularly, to really focus on trying to conquer improv again and do something new would be fun. But there is an element of like, I get to see Greg once a month doing this show. I'm going to try to make myself and him laugh as much as possible. So yeah. I think I really do push myself out there for that. And then it's just like, as soon as the audience gives it to me, Papa Bear's like, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I can empathize with that because, like, for this podcast, like, I gave up this being a top 100 iTunes podcast a long time ago. Is it still iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or whatever? But like now, I do it for myself, and I get way more joy out of that. Like, I want to talk to you about what is interesting to me, not what like the masses want. So there's something to that. I think that frees you up. But I think what you said that is really important is you said I don't care. I think you said I don't care, that's it's honestly kind of you were talking. I was like, it's kind of Andy Kaufman-esque. Like Andy Kaufman used to want a bomb, right?
Right.
And it seems like you are just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and it makes me happy.
And you don't care, and then you will double down. Like you just confidently double down on this stupid thing you're doing, and it just makes. It's very Andy Kaufman-esque as we talk about.
Well, I feel so much better about myself. Thank you.
Well, you still have a potato head.
Oh, now what a witch's voice.
But anyways, I just love you guys so much. And to that point, like you mentioned, like you when you go to do an improv show, you're like, oh no, I gotta go do this. I was gonna ask you, what is your relationship with improv now? Like, and you kind of, it seems like answered that with the idea that you want to do it for you now, almost.
Yeah, it's tying it into like the Hollywood thing too. It like got me out here because when I was in Chicago, I was doing it basically every night of the week. I worked at Second City, get a manager and all that stuff. You come out here, and in the early hot days of being out in Hollywood, it's like use it as a tool to have people come see you. So there's a little more pressure on the shows. It's like casting director showing up because your manager set it up or whatever. And so it's now hit this point where I've been here over 10 years apparently, and it's like it's coming back around again to I'm going out to do the show for myself, which is kind of, it's like gone back to when I was in my 20s, like first starting out. And it was just like, I'm going to get up there and have as much fun as possible. I want to start playing with the people I have the most fun with. I'm going to start groups of people I love the most. And it's like kind of coming back to that, where the part about getting out is hard is because it's like, I don't drive, so it takes me a long time to get anywhere. I got kids, so it's like, I got to make dinner and I have to get on a train. So like you start thinking about all that stuff. And then in your brain, you say like, for a stupid improv show. And it always starts that way. And then I get there, I do the show, and I feel 20 again, have a blast. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it again next time. And then like a month goes by, and I'm like, stupid improv show. So it is that the fact that every time it ends, I still love it means I'm going to go back again. And, if I have one that bombs, I may never come back, bro.
Yeah. Have you ever, what's the book, The Art of War, or The War of Art? The War of Art?
The War of Art? Which one? By
not the massive book. There's the Art of War is the massive one. The War of Art just talks about how like you just got to go do stuff. Everything is, it's sort of religious in the sense that he phrases the devil as resistance, and you're resistant to do things. And I find when there's resistance like that, I don't want to do that. You got to go into that. What I think of is I was a mascot in college, and the worst part about being a mascot was putting on the goddamn outfit. But once you're in, you're just like, oh. Same with, I just got back from Vail a couple weeks ago. Everybody hates putting on ski boots. You know what I mean? It's oh God, I got to put it. And then once they're on, you're like, I'm free. And you're flying down the mountain. But that sort of resistance that like is telling you don't do it.
Right.
Is almost like reassuring in a way that, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's built that way, but.
It is good to remember as I get older too. It's just like if you stop doing things, eventually you're just gonna like be in your house all the time, not doing anything. And it's like, so yeah, I'm glad I crushed that urge to just sit on the couch every time, and I go do these shows because it's a blast every time I do it. I still love it.
Yeah, and that reads. This is random. Do you watch Severance?
I do.
Okay. I just have a crazy comparison for you. You are giving me Dylan G vibes right now. Like, your innie is you on stage, and your outie's the sad guy with the witch voice with the kids at home not doing anything.
That's so funny.
Your innie's all confident and
my wife
around,
would like really love me on stage.
You're smooching your wife on stage. Yeah.
That's great. I like that. Yeah. I got to start wearing my glasses so low that I smoosh my nose. That's the only thing that drives me crazy about that character. I'm like, why did give him like fucking glasses that fit? They're always just like squishing his fucking nose. Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah.
Because he's so confident on the inside.
Yeah, he's like
And you on stage are so confident.
I think, I just think self-deprecation is always something I have anyway. It's like, I don't know. And it really doesn't work out here in Hollywood. I find like people, I always have to remind myself if I have a pitch or I'm meeting someone for the first time, not to do the self-deprecation thing. I've known you for a long time, so I can come in and make fun of myself. Because it is, I don't know what it is. It's that self-defense thing of just like, I'm going to ease the tension of being like, look what a fucking loser I am. And then like a conversation can start flowing from that. But I've done that before in like pitches and stuff, just because it's how my brain works. And it is just like people shut down and you're like, you idiot, don't make fun of yourself.
That's a really interesting thought. Because, like, I think all of us funny people start with that. Like, I always think of myself as the court jester in the group. Like, my friends can make fun of me, and that bonds people together.
Yes.
Not necessarily self-deprecating, but in that same vein. And that is really interesting now that we're all, like, hyper-aware of mental health and stuff. And if we see somebody do that, that might just, like, tick in us that, oh, no, is he okay?
Oh, yeah.
So that's
very
really
interesting.
It's a really interesting perspective.
Because, like you're saying, it is like, I don't know, my comedy friends, it's what we do. We hang out with each other. We make fun of ourselves. We make fun of each other a ton.
Yep.
We just like slash each other's throats all evening, laugh, hug, go home. And so it is just like, for me, it's like, if I go into a pitch meeting, for instance, I'm like, I want this to be as comfortable as possible for me. So I'm going to start acting like I would with my friends.
Right.
And those people instantly are like...
They start seizing up?
Seizing up. They're just like... Because they're so young and confident. And their dads gave them this awesome job.
Wait, you mentioned... Are you still with Naomi Odenkirk?
I am.
That's amazing.
That's 10 plus years. Thank goodness.
She's a well-known comedy manager, Bob Odenkirk's wife. Bob Odenkirk is her husband. We should put it that way.
That's right, yeah.
But you just mentioned that she used to have casting directors come see you do improv. Did we talk about this last time?
I don't remember, but...
when was the last time she did? How often did that happen? And when was the last time?
It hasn't happened since, like, the world's returned.
Okay.
In this new world, it hasn't happened. I should start using the shows that way again. It would help get things rolling again. Yeah, so she would always have people come out and see us, and it was great. It really was a nice... Because there was that time, like 10 years ago, people still looked at improv as this weird, like, magic trick. You had your CISO. You remember when CISO came out? And, like, they latched into UCB, so, like, they were, like, all over, like, how do you do this? So it was a great way for people to just kind of come out and see you. And, again, they got to see me in my, like, natural habitat. And so I got a lot of auditions off of that. So I really loved it, and we should get back into it. I feel like everything's like a slow chunk back now, where people are still finding their footing and stuff on. Well, I almost cursed. I keep cursing.
You can curse all you want.
Okay, good. Fuck yes. So that it's like I need to tap back into that part of the improv because it helped. It's always good to have somebody see you as like, oh, that's what he is, and then they can start thinking about you in casting and stuff.
Yeah. It's tricky. I just had Frank Coyote on.
Oh, I love Frank. Hell yeah. I was a student when he was on ETC. He was hilarious, unbelievable. Yeah.
At Second City.
Yeah.
He talked about, because I was like, dude, you are a rock star compared to where I'm at. Like, you've done so much, and he sadly said something along the line. I'm going to butcher it, but it was like, I'm trying to determine if I am a has-been or a never was.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's devastating. But something he talked about to that end was like, he's always just wanted his work. He's the Midwest boy. He's always wanted his work to speak for itself. So he's never really done the business side of it.
Yeah.
Which is inviting casting directors to shows and getting your name out there and self-promotion.
Yeah,
and
I'm
stuff.
so bad at that stuff.
I think everybody is because we don't, as artists, we want to be creative. We want to make stuff. We don't want to promote this stuff.
Right.
We're not the marketing
There's something
team.
false about it.
Yeah.
And it is. Again, like when I go into these rooms, I just want to be friends. And that's why I do my usual self-deprecation thing. But it is like... you want to connect with people on a real basis versus just like fake, like, put me in something. You know, it's like, it feels so false. I'm really bad at it. And it is. It's just like, if we're going to be friends, let's hang out. If you like going to comedy shows, come to my shows. Like, you know, that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. We all, like, it's so funny. I think that's why improv theaters fail a lot is because creative people create them and then they don't know how to run the business.
Yeah.
And so...
Yes.
We need to do, they need classes on business of creativity or something like that because it is really hard to figure out and sort out.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad it still exists, and I'm still glad these like little theaters keep popping up. But you're right. It is like such a tough thing. And I mean, the age-old thing, too, has always been like pay the performers. But it's also like not enough money's coming into the theater to pay the performer. If you start paying the performer, like... do people start getting like there's something great about like a theater that everybody can kind of play at, you know, if you start paying everybody. I don't know. It's always every time the business side comes up, it's just my brain shuts down and it's like I couldn't do it.
Did Cook County ever have a manager? Like did the group ever have a manager?
No, we've always just handled all that stuff ourselves. The theaters we've been at have always been really nice. And like, so when we were at I.O. in Chicago, Sharna's theater, she owned the one out here and that no longer owns out here in Hollywood. But she always put us up and took care of us. And then out here, UCB has always been super great to us, even though we didn't come from UCB. They still give us spots, which we're always grateful for. But yeah, no, we never had a manager or anything.
Because it seems like Ben Schwartz has been doing that thing where he goes around the country, and it seems like you guys would thrive at that. I don't know if you would even want to do that, but like even Dynasty Typewriter, they pay pretty well, and it seems like you guys could.
It would definitely be something we love. It's like, you know, Ben's got that. I mean, his name recognition is huge.
Yeah.
And I still think most people like know him doing that. You'd go to see him. I still don't think people know what improv is. Like if we were on the same theater, you know what I mean?
Well, they don't know what your improv is.
If we were on the same like marquee as him, people would be like, I'm not going to go see that crap. What we have to do is get Tim to start doing it again. And then we're back in it.
Yeah, Tim Robinson
came. Yeah, he was in our group. But he's never going to do it, guys. So Cook County's dead.
Do you guys still ask him? Because I remember...
we stopped. You know what? I was the main one who would always like be like, one more time, dude. And the thing is he just, you know, he feels... I never realized how much anxiety he had performing live. Like he does not like performing live. And then he found this like, you know, writing and putting his own stuff up, and he's so comfortable in that skin. And I had seen something. So I keep bugging him about it. And then I saw one of these like Beatles documentaries somewhere along the lines was like it was either Paul or like an old John interview where I think it was an old John interview where they're like, everybody keeps saying, get the Beatles together, come back together. And he'd be like, you're not, it might be all four of the same people on stage, but it's not the Beatles because we're all different now.
Yeah.
And it's changed and you can't recapture that magic. The Beatles are done. And I was like, it hit me really hard of like, I can't force my friend to get up and do something he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
It will be a forced fake thing. And it won't be the same anymore. So I was like, I stopped asking him, and like we've set him free from ever having to do it again.
I mean, that's really interesting. When he plays characters, it seems like he's a very anxious person.
Yeah.
So maybe on stage, he was
just such a slaughter machine on stage that I'm like, he loves it, but he did it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Speaking of like what I want, so when we talked 10 years ago, there was not a self-tape world like it is. What is your view? Like how I imagine you would struggle with self-tapes, but you also said earlier you struggle in person. So like, how have you been with self-tapes? What's your feels about self-tapes?
I feel like my auditions are always good. My in-person is that I don't know how to connect with the other person like a normal person without being like, look at this fat fuck, I'm here. which is like, but I've always felt like my auditions are really good, and I feel like in the room I do well. I also feel on self-tape I do really well. I send these things in, and I'm like, I crushed it, and that's me talking in positive ways about myself. I do feel like I nail auditions, and I'm like, no joke. Every time I send one in, I'm like, got it, and then when I don't get it, I'm like, fuck this. But self-tapes,
I'm surprised by that.
I really love it, and I've gotten to a point where when I first started them, it would be like 30 takes, and I'm now to the point where I know what I want to do. I knock it out in 1 or 2. And what I miss, though, is that I do miss the personal connection, because now it just gets sent off. I can't remember the last time I was in a room with like a casting director, and that's where I would get most of my callbacks. It would be like, I didn't get this one, but because the last one went so good, I'm seeing them again in the next week or the 2 weeks later or something. Now it's like I send one in, I'm like staring at who the casting director is. I'm like, I'm not even sure I've ever met this person. Then you never hear from them again. It's like, it's crazy that like, especially when you see like a show is like in another season, you're like, oh, I auditioned for that last season, and you don't get called in. Like back on the Face and to Faces day, it'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to get back on the show. If they come back next season, I'm going to get another shot. Now when it goes away, it's like, well, did they even see the tape I sent in? That's the one thing I'm like, all my tapes are good. I really feel good about my tapes. So it always kind of, that part shakes me up a little bit of just like, how come I'm not hearing from these people again? And they're on season 12 of that show. How come I'm not getting asked in again? So that's where I'm at with that. I do miss going in live. There's something magically easy about the self-tape, and you really get to like hone a performance. And I feel really strong about what I'm doing, but I do miss like that we could feel something good was happening here live, and like chances are I might get called back in on something else again because the casting director and I felt something together. Oh, you see me mash my face into the microphone?
Wait, okay, I'm shocked by that. I thought you'd be like curmudgeon-y about self-tapes.
No, I do dig them, and I feel like I'm really like a machine on them now too. I can crank them out.
Tell me your process then. Like when you get a self-tape, when we're talking TV, right? Not commercial or both?
Yeah, I don't go in for commercial. I can talk about that too.
Okay, we'll table
Put that on the set.
So when you get a self-tape audition, how do you approach it? Like, are you immediately thinking of what you want to do and how you want to record it?
Yeah, for sure. I know I have like I have we have like a little back house. I go back there, so I'm in the environment I'm going to be in shooting it. And then I just start running it, start like making the choices I want to make. Think about how like in my mind's eye, the perfect version of me putting this out there, and then get it like to a place where it feels loose and fun. And then I just record the thing and I'm done. And like I used to be like, we got to do it again. And now I'm just like, no, that was good. I just watch it as soon as I'm done doing it. And if I feel like I'm popping off and I'm like, I'm happy with that, then I send it in.
And you have a whole like setup, a backdrop and lights and everything?
No, I just got like the natural stuff. I always kind of get a little crazy about like how much people like make people feel like they have to jump through hoops. I feel like the really good casting directors I've worked with have been like, if I can see you and I can hear you,
yeah,
you're doing great.
Yeah.
Like these people who I like make you like rent out places and have people professionally shoot. I'm like, you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like it's clear I'm making choices. You can hear me clearly. And this is my performance. I don't get too crazy about all that stuff. It makes me mad if like people make me do that stuff.
You're confident though in like, do you ever coach on self tapes? Have like somebody read and coach with you?
No, I'm kind of like.
Who reads with you? Sorry.
My wife used to mainly read with me, and now my son, who is,
that's hilarious.
And it's really crazy, but he's in a performing arts high school. So I'm like, now you get to see be on the other side.
That's cool.
And he's really great. But I don't know. I feel confident in what, like, if you're looking for me on there, I'm going to give you that. Because I used to have this thing where it'd be like, you can, especially when you're getting like guest star stuff, you like see something, you're like, oh, I think I know what they want. And then you kind of do like the what they want version of it. And like sometimes you'd be successful in booking it or not. And now I'm just to the point of like, oh yeah, I see what they want. And here's what I think I could do with it. I like what I could do with it. I'm going to do what I can do with it. And here's this tape of me doing what I would do with this part. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I feel confident in that stuff as much as like I hate my potato face and witch voice. I feel strong about like my choices, and I'm just like, you know, especially because with Naomi, I just do all comedy stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to make this Brendan funny. And hopefully they want it.
Yeah, I like that. Make this Brendan funny. What I've been struggling with lately is like, it seems like, and I brought this up to a couple casting directors, but like, it seems like this frame here, I'm pointing at my self-tape wall, is like, you got to do more than just be in the camera. Now you got to like move and like be in your bathroom or whatever, you know?
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, yeah, I feel like, well, it's back in Severance, Ben Stiller was talking about he had never seen an audition tape like Britt Lowers, and she was like woke up on the bathroom floor their audition was like that first scene.
Oh, wow.
And she like did the whole thing, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel like it's a level playing field when we're expected to put like production value in different shot angles.
As soon as everybody starts doing that, it'll be like the biggest eye rolls. And I also had to put more into this. I had the benefit of being in a writer's room too, and like watch people audition.
Oh,
I worked on a show called AP Bio, which is really great. Everybody go watch it. But we'd get people's auditions coming in, and to me, the tried and true, you know, white wall camera on you, you did the lines and you brought something to it. Always won versus anybody doing something else. And like, as soon as somebody did something else,
that's good to hear.
That's instantly what the room would talk about. Like, no one was like really focused on like, that was cool that they did that. Instead, it was just like, God, that was weird. Why did that happen? You know what I mean?
Oh,
so, like,
interesting.
I imagine it's different for everything. Like hers, I mean, that's such like a deep and detailed show. It might be a very cool thing to do something like that. But like, in our room, it'd be like, if things got too wild, you almost did yourself a disservice. It was, you know.
I love hearing that. But now I want to hear more. Okay, so how many would you watch? Like, if you had like a co-star thing, you were one of what, 10 writers on the show or something?
Yeah.
You all would watch the tapes?
Yeah, if it was like, because our showrunner, Michael Bryan, the amazing genius, Michael Bryan, he's my friend.
I gotta get him on the podcast. We were supposed to do it, and it never happened.
Oh, he's great. And a Chicago legend. We came up together in Chicago, and just like one of the most unique, amazing performers of all time. But you know, he was running the show, of course. So a lot of the times he would just watch the stuff on his own. But it was such a big familial process writing AP Bio that it would be like, okay, we're going to look at these auditions for this kid coming in this episode. We got this part for this, teacher part. And we'd like sit there and we would watch, and it'd be about, the 10 selects would come in. You'd get like the 10 best. And the casting director, Wendy O'Brien, amazing. She would pick great ones. And it was such a great process. It would be like, there was never any real stinkers in there. But yeah, every now and then you'd get that one where someone, and again, no one is bad. Everybody who comes through is like, this is, being on the other side of like casting.
Oh yeah.
Always sets your brain free as a performer. So we sat here and we realized how anxious and like self-deprecating I am. I do have a lot of confidence in myself in auditions now because I've seen the other side. And I do know that it is like the people coming through, when they want you in there, they want you in there because you're good. When your tape gets passed along, the tape's getting passed along because it's good. But, sometimes people would take swings, and it's like Wendy maybe thought this was a cool choice, but it would be like sometimes it was just so jarring where it's just like, just do the audition like we all know what the audition. We can all imagine you doing it on TV. You don't have to wear the costume and all this stuff. It would just be like, just do the part and let us see you do the part.
Yeah.
And then that's what always would win, would be like, that guy was wild.
Was it clear? Fantastic. Was it clear to all 10, or would it be more like a jury deliberation?
It'd be like jury deliberation, and again, it's like, it also shows how much is out of your control because so much of this shit is taste,
it's
dude.
So frustrating.
It is like, and that's why you can't do yourself a disservice when you just do yourself doing it. Like removing this idea of like, what are they looking for? I'm going to try to do that versus just be like, I'm Brendan, and this is what Brendan would be like in this part, serves you so much better. Because you know what? We've had two where like someone really nailed an audition, and when they were on set, it was like different, and we don't know why. You know what I mean? It always went great, but it was always like, you're always better off being authentic to yourself and doing the authentic you, because trying to like mimic something that feels false is always going to ring false eventually when it's like action time.
That's why I never do accents, because I'm like, if I can do it on a self-tape, there's no chance I could do it in person.
Dude, and that thing would be gone by lunch. It'd just be like, what did I sound like again? If I could just see a tape of me doing it.
Every accent I do becomes Irish at some point. You know what I mean? It just bleeds into Irish. That's really interesting. So this might be more of a Mike O'Brien thing, but when you watch those 10 selects or whatever, did you like know who those people were? Did it go in one ear and out the other, or did you like remember, oh, this is so and so, this is so and so, and then like months later think, remember so and so?
Oh, like, do you mean like were they lasting, or did I know the people personally?
No, did they last? Like, was it some like he's not right for this one, but he sticks out in my head?
That's definitely
later.
Happened.
To the writers?
Sure, yeah. If they ever came up again, it'd be like, oh, I remember him from that. But yeah, and the thing that really soothed me was everyone who got sent in was great, like and doing a great job. Maybe not great for the way we saw it, but it was never just like, what a stinker. Can you believe this person's in Hollywood? Never happened. Always a great performer. Just be like, oh, this wasn't right for this one. And there'd be times too where that process, because you're looking at so much, would mean like sometimes 2 lines in, like it'd be like, not right, and move on to the next one. I was always an advocate for like, please let's let him see the whole audition. Everybody work for it.
Good for you.
But sometimes it just happens where it's just like, we all know this isn't the right thing, and it's not because the person was doing bad.
It just wasn't.
Wasn't a fit. It was just like tones different. You know, sometimes look does come into it, but you know, it's being on the other side of casting freed my tortured brain so much, and that is why like self tapes, great. I'll have it into you. Boom. Here's what I do. Going in person, same thing. I would go in, and if they like give you, I did like if they gave me something to go another direction, always super fun. But I never, once I started doing the performance, I wasn't nervous. It was the social aspect face to face that made me nervous, that I'm just like, you know, yeah. Audition wise, I always, because I've seen the other side of casting, always had a strong sense of self and just be Brendan and do what Brendan would be happy doing in this part versus trying to service what you think it is.
Yeah.
Because then you're just doing like what everyone else does. You know? Right.
Yeah. I just want to know, like, I like to celebrate small wins because I don't have many big ones. But like, I would love to know if I was one of those selects, you know what I mean? Like I always send tapes in and then nothing. And you're like,
I've had friends who are like in rooms, and whenever they told me, it always made me, I'm the same. I like that too. It really drags on you, especially, you know, the world goes away for 2 years. You go on strike for a whole year. And like, so it's always these starts and stops. And so when you send something in and don't hear about it, it stinks. And, you know, it is like, I understand how busy everyone is. But yeah, to me, that's the same thing too. Like you live on those small victories.
Yeah.
Getting your auditions like a victory in itself. Sending it in and like having your manager give you a thumbs up is a victory in itself, right? Because it's like showing that you're doing good work. And then I always would love if you found out like, oh yeah, you were top 3 on this, you just didn't get it, you know. But yeah, it was. I always liked when people gave it to me too.
Yeah, because like I just had an audition for Euphoria, which was literally podcast host.
Oh!
That was the role. I've been training my entire life for this. Nothing, and I'm like, was I just bad?
You know what though? I don't know what to say to that because I go through the same thing too. You never realize how close you probably are sometimes. It is like, and again, I can't express this enough, sitting in a room, we'd get like 10 people and they were all great. And it is just like, I never saw those people anywhere else or whatever.
Yeah. Oh.
I wish I could tell everybody. But like whenever I got a chance to be like, oh, if it was a buddy or something, it'd be like, yeah, we watched you in the room. It was great. Yeah. And no joke, it was great. And there's that part where you go, well, why didn't I get the part? There's 18 billion reasons why, and none of them have to do with you. It's like not your fault you didn't get it. But it is like, you know, the attaboy is like you got the audition. And the casting directors out here are so good that if you got the audition, that is a good win. And that you don't know, but there's a chance, you were in the writer's room and we were watching you and you were close.
Yeah. Well, I auditioned for AP Bio.
Yeah, I might have seen you. I don't remember. It was like 10 years ago.
Did you write for every season?
I wrote season 2 through 4, and I feel like I might 1 through 4 as the janitor.
I feel like I might have auditioned season 1. It was did that go on after COVID or no?
That whole show like was the journey of COVID.
I feel like I auditioned right before COVID hit. I went to Wendy O'Brien like 2 weeks before.
Our third season, we got 8 episodes in on a 10-episode season. And we're about to shoot the last 2 episodes the Friday everything shut down.
Oh, so it would have been like a later season.
Episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned your managers watch your tapes. I was going to ask you about that. Do all your reps watch it, or is it just your manager? And how often do they say, Brendan, you're way off on it?
Oh, never say I'm way off. I just like you send it into my little manager team, and they like look at it and they go, great, sending it along. And so, that's pretty
so they never say no, or they never ask you to retape it?
I think only once when I was way back when I was first starting, when I was in Chicago, I kind of half-assed one because I was so exhausted. I had like 3 small children, and we're in this back room, and like they were like, yeah, maybe try it again, like with a little, like try to connect a little more to it. And I was like, oh, and my wife, of course, who was reading with me, who hates doing that, was like, it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it's 100% my fault. So they're like, it was back in those days, we would self-tape in Chicago. We were rarities. It was Tim and I would go into rooms at Second City, and no joke, we'd spend like 2 hours because we both would overdo it too much. Overthinking again, like, how does this work? Especially because back then, casting off a self-tape was hard. So I remember the very first one we ever did was for Veep. It was who's the little bag man, the guy from Arrested Development. He it was for his part. Tim and I both did that in a room in Second City for like 2 hours, both of us filming each other like that part. And that was our very first audition, and it was just like, great. And they sent the tape along, and so
where's that tape at?
I no joke, probably still have it on. So Tim made a compilation of me going, hi, I'm Brendan Jennings. Hi, Brendan Jennings. Brendan Jennings. Hi, Brendan Jennings. And so he like sent it to me. It was just like this long loop of me saying my name, slating.
That's actually really funny. I've been trying to do like more acting vlogs to try to like grow my acting presence. And that's a funny one. I should just do a super cut of me going, hi, I'm Mike Elder. Hi, I'm Mike Elder. That's actually really funny. I got to write that down. Yeah, I want to see your Veep audition now. That's so funny.
I would love to see it too, just because to see like, my thought process now would be so different doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's as time goes on, I get more and more confident. It stinks that the industry keeps changing through, its own faults and also nature ruining us. But it's like, it's crazy to like have it start and stop so much. But every step along the way, I get more confident in something where it's just like, I wish I had the acting confidence and especially the writing confidence I have now way back then when I first came out here.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's, that's the process of life, I guess. So I try not to get too down on it.
Improve and grow, yeah. My managers watch my tapes too, and there's always like a little bit of dread I have when I send it to them. I'm like, oh God, if they say no and I have to do this again, I'm going to...
Yeah, that part stinks. But you know what? But if you're happy with it, then could be... I also remember one time they thought on something I was too big, and so I did do it again kind of dead, and I hated it. And that's the one they sent in, and I remember like casting was like, oh, maybe have him do it again with a little more life, and they're like, oh, and they sent this other one in, and hilarious. I got like into like the finals. I could call it the finals. My brain can't think of I got like a producer session out of it, and I was like, cool, that wins. And that was another one where I was just like, my instincts were right. So
that's good.
Kind of like trust your instincts, and like if they have like a valid reason or like here's something you weren't thinking of, I would do it again, but it hasn't come up. And again, once I started doing it, like I'm just going to do it the way I'd want to do it and would make me happy. Like I never really get notes about it.
That's great. Now I'm second guessing something. So I like to coach for any TV thing now because I find if somebody like gives me a perspective that's just like move in, turn, do this, that's helpful to me to have that direction. But do you think that's helpful or no? Because now I'm kind of confused about your AP Bio. You said the people that just do it are, and by just do it, I'm picturing people just reading the lines, but that's probably not it. There's got to be some little bit of.
Well, the thing too is though it's different for everything. Because I would go into like casting rooms too, and like somebody would be like, "Don't improvise or anything at the end. Do the line straight up." Like the casting director helping you out, and you're like, "Oh, okay." And then there's other people who like, you know how like you get to that audition and the reader's like sits there and waits and basically is just like, go for a play, just to start ripping, and you just got to start improvising something. So it's different every single time, and I think it's just like what works for you should work for you. But if you're like, I don't know, if you're doing something because you think there's like a magic answer to it, I don't know. Like that's something when you were saying that where someone's like telling you the exact movements. I kind of don't think about it. When every time I hate anything I've done, it's just because my body's too wild. Because I'm not like a trained actor or anything. I'm just like an improviser from Chicago. But so that's where I like get in my head of just like, am I moving my hands too much? I can't naturally not just do that. But then I'm also like, it's authentic. That's exactly what if the guy in the camera said action. This is what my body would be doing because that's how I am. So it's like, I don't know if it helps you do it. If they put you too much in your head, you know, maybe set yourself free.
No, see, it's the opposite. I like they like give me a window and I hit like they give me beats to hit. You know what I mean? And I like that. I think like great. My inflection and how I do things I can do on my own, but like just like important beats and stuff I need help with.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't book anything, so who knows? Have you auditioned for anything wild in retrospect that would have been crazy to know you got? Like any like big leads or anything?
Not really.
Veep was pretty big.
That was big, but that when you look back on it now, it was them being like, "Here's your test, young bucks," like to kind of get used to it. But that was also back in the day too, where everybody got to read for like bigger parts. I'm trying to think. Not really. Nothing really comes to mind. I mean, I've read for cool things. You also get to the point where you're like, oh, this is so good. This is going to be like, you know, the brother from Everybody Loves Raymond. You know, you can just tell like it's not going to be you, numbnuts. But then your hope is that you get like, you know, the guy who gives him coffee or something. So that's why you just like try to nail it. But yeah, I don't know. Like
nothing huge.
Nothing huge. It's been a cool bumpy run, and again, like it got me to. I'm like, as much as I sat down and self-deprecated myself, like I'm super confident in my auditions, and I feel really good as a writer. And now you just sit there and hope you get your shot. You know, the thing that I hate right now is that it feels like auditions are coming less and less. Is what stinks, and like you know, have people tell you that's like, oh, that's like that for everybody, but you're also like, isn't? And that's what I hate. I kind of feel like the momentum or the way the world was when I came out here to begin with was a lot, the ground is more fertile and you had a lot more opportunities. And now your opportunities, like, it seems like every year that goes by, they get less and less and less as people start making, they stop making as much. Streaming came along and changed everything. So it is just like, some of it's not my fault. I wish there was more of it, but when I do it, I feel like I'm good at it, you know? And I just, you know, keep hoping for more opportunities to do it.
Well, how do you handle that when the momentum gets stifled? Like, what do you do personally to get through that or
well, first off, like everyone, maybe not everyone. It's hard. Like I really try to keep myself up mentally. Luckily, like my family's great. My wife is awesome and really helps me through all that stuff. And then it's like try to start working on that script I haven't been working on for a long time because I felt jammed up by it. Like forcing myself to do something creative, and it's very hard. Like I always think like if I won like an award or something, like you'd want to be up there and be like, I never quit. And yet the truth is like, I quit all the time. And I'm just like basically a product of like everyone around me helping me not quit, you know? But it is like, it's like turn back, go do an improv show. Yeah. Always helps me. Start writing something that I feel stuck on and suddenly if that opens up, you feel like so awesome when you finish something like that. And then it's just like, I never like get pestery, but that gentle nudge of like, if there's any meeting I can take, or if there's anything I can do to like remind castings that I'm out there. So you just try to find those little things. And luckily, like the universe always like tosses me some sort of little bone, like some weird gig will come up and I'll go do that. But yeah, it's just trying not to get down in the dumps, which I fail at sometimes. And then, try to bounce back the next day. Because it is that part of how much of it isn't your fault. Like, it's not your fault that COVID came along and shut us down for 2 years. It's not your fault that we had a writer's strike and things shut down, It's not your fault that, like, all these streamers who made everything seem like they made 20 shows in a month, like, when they first started, are not making anything right now, right? There's so much out of your control. And that is just continuing to remind yourself those, like, and it helps, like, when people say nice things or come to your improv show and say how nice things to you. Those are like, you got to like cash in those like mental bucks, which you forget sometimes. And like, I forget those little droppings. Every now and then you're like, get an email or something where, someone like wanted to say how much they saw you do something, how much they loved it. And like, it's so easy when you're not working to be like, I'm a loser, don't read this. But then instead, like when you read it and you go, oh, it meant something to this person, you feel really good about yourself. And so it's like keeping yourself up that way. And that's why I try to remind myself, is like, I've built a long career doing like comedy and like performing and stuff. And, I'm not living in a mansion, and like, it stinks that like it starts and stops so much, but it is like, I'm still doing it. So got to remind yourself that.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And I like that perspective. It's just like, come back to what that you can control, write your thing, work on your thing, do that show. I think that's so helpful. Yeah,
and it feels great when you crack it. The writing stuff especially, I give up on writing so easily when it gets hard. God, it's the worst, because you're by yourself. It's so insanely hard, and it's just like, I'm done. And it's so easy not to do it. And then all of a sudden you go back to it, and if like you chunk through something and then you get through it, it's like, oh, it's such a great feeling.
That's the resistance stopping you.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Through it, breaking through it, 1,000%. By the way, I will say, was this during COVID when you did the girl in the room across from the room with the drink in the room? Whatever the name of it was?
Yeah.
Do you know the name of it?
I don't. But I did Nobodies with those guys. And that was, again, another thing. It's just like, I did a great show called Nobodies with the guys who did the girl in the window across I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But they were a really amazing crew that had worked on a bunch of stuff, had been together since Groundlings. And then they put me in the show Nobodies, and I was on season 1, and it was awesome. And then season 2, I wasn't on it. And then you're like, oh, I stink, man. And then all of a sudden, years later, they're like, hey, we want you to come do this show. And it's like, again, like, you don't know how much like people are rooting for you, or like what the next thing is going to come. So every time I'm like close to quitting or something, and I don't know, just like going off to be like a real life janitor somewhere instead of a TV janitor, like something comes along and you forget, like, and then something amazing like that happens. And they were like, we were so excited. What was that? They were so excited to have me on the show, and I was so excited to work with them again. It was so fun. It was great.
Well, what I was going to say is I didn't even know you were in The Girl with the Glass of Wine across from the railroad station.
We should look it up. I feel
Park
so
Place
bad.
Monopoly. But when you showed up like as the fucking killer that eats children, I was just so giddy, because I was like, that's fucking hilarious. And I'm pretty sure I texted you. I was like, Brendan, what the hell? This is
so
amazing.
Funny.
And you're just in jail. Oh, it was so good.
And that was great. Again, that was like, we did it during COVID times, and then like to have something new come out and you're in it when like everything's shut down, you feel so good. That one's really funny too, because the exact same thing happened when I showed up to set. I was like, the first person I ran into was like the costumer, and like they're like, I was like, oh, I'm Massacre Mike, and they're like, the killer? Oh, okay, 1 second. And like, she disappeared for 20 minutes, and she came back and she goes, no joke, I had to go call the producers and ask if this is right, because you look too sweet.
That's hilarious.
And I didn't get that. It was a joke. And so I was like, yeah, every time I showed up, there was always somebody initially going, really? You're it? And they'd be like, it's the joke. It's the joke, because it's him.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Do you like when I book stuff, my instinct is to immediately tell a bunch of people. But I try so hard to not tell people because I like the idea of people being surprised and seeing me.
Yeah, I never tell anybody anything. I get the deep fear too of like you're gonna get cut
For sure, yeah.
and then and then it's always just like I do love like the weird surprise of like somebody being like, hey.
I love that. I booked my first TV gig last year. It was Kimmel cut. And I made this thing of telling like 10 people. I was like, so hyped.
Oh, I've done a few Kimmels too. That was a great one. That's a fun experience.
Yeah. It's super easy. Like they booked me the morning of. Yeah, and then I drove over there 20 minutes later.
You just chill out there all day?
Yeah, I was there all day in the green room talking to like Rob Reiner was there and like Sarah Silverman was there. I was just like, dope. But I was the fucking QAnon shaman, so I was covered in like body paint. Like, who's the creeper over there? Okay, last question is who took a chance on you?
I mean, so many people, but really, yeah, Naomi at Odenkirk Provocero Entertainment was the first one who really connected with me as like a person. Again, I felt like she was my friend versus like there was this time in Chicago when a lot of people were coming and snatching up Chicago talent again. And like, so there were a lot of managers out and I'd had a lot of meetings and a lot of lunches with people who were nice, but I always felt like would forget about me in a second.
Yeah.
And then she was the first person who was like friendly to me and we were like talking to each other like friends. And then at first kind of even was just like, I don't know if I could do the long distance Chicago thing. So like almost didn't want me.
Oh,
so
wow.
when she did want me, I was just like, yeah, this is great. So she was like the first person out here to really take a swing on me. And I'm forever grateful for that.
That's awesome.
And then, and then just like across the way, it's just a bunch, you know, people at Second City took a shot on me, gave me that in. It was the first and only job I ever wanted was to work for Second City. So I'm grateful to the people, Beth Kligerman and Libra, who took a shot on me. So yeah, again, like I'm a person who gives up probably every day and then is raised to the rafters by people who won't let me give up.
That's great.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the ultimate is like my wife. She took a shot. Oh,
yeah.
You know? So yeah, and again, it's just like I'm very lucky with the support system and people I have in my life. Because, yeah, it's hard, man. Like we're saying, like these roller coaster up and downs, it's easy to be like, well, what do you do when you're in those ruts? And there's this part of you that's always just like, I want to go to sleep and I just want to find a job where no one sees me again. And I just like, you know, I sweep floors and I sweep floors and I go home and I eat chicken and broccoli.
Wait, when was the last time you had a day job?
I don't know.
Because let me ask you, that's great. But your wife obviously works, so that helps. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't think I told you this, but I've had the same day job for almost 10 years. And I just quit it this month.
Oh!
And my last day is 4/1. And I'm going to essentially take like a 2 or 3 month creative leave and try to just like focus on the podcast and vlogging and auditioning.
That's great.
I'm nervous though for like to turn off the faucet, but like I'm really excited. I've had so many in-person commercial auditions in the last 2 weeks, like 6 in person.
That's great.
And I realized I've never gone to an audition not like stressed, checking Slack, hurrying back to work.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm excited.
Like,
and I like to think
how's your brain going to be when you're free of that?
Right. And I'm like, I like to think I can compartmentalize, but like I'm sure there's part of it reading that I got to hurry out of here and get back to work.
Right.
So I'm excited and nervous, but I'm going to go towards that resistance and that fear of like what's the unknown. But like, I'm interested to see like what I can do.
That's great,
in a few months of not doing it.
It really is great. And like the mental aspect of it is there's so much fear in it. And like just going and tackling the fear is unbelievable. Like the worst you can do is fail at it. The best you can do is win. And then somewhere in the middle is probably the truth where it's just going to be like, it's going to be great. And then the universe will provide, man.
Yeah. After 5 months or whatever, I'll find something else if I have to. Yeah.
And that's the same. Like I'm always like an inch away from like getting a day. Like it's funny to think about. I haven't had a day job in a long time, but I'm always like deadly close. And like
something comes in.
Like some crazy gig came in, and like during the writer's strike, we had this podcast we did. Oh, listen to Get It to Dutch, the podcast. And we had that kind of save us. Like where no one was getting money doing anything, we got this podcast money saved us. Last year Tim went out on tour, and I went on tour with Tim. And that saved me, you know what I mean? And then it's like all of a sudden, it's just, I don't know. I always get mad at myself when I'm really down and I get to reflect on me being really down about how much time like you spend wallowing in self-pity and all that stuff, when it is just like you keep getting saved. You know, you can't keep looking that gift horse in the mouth like cosmically. You got to like appreciate it, look at it and be like, I'm going to survive this, you know, and be appreciative of like that weird little email or somebody saying they loved your show or something like that. That's all there for you to like continue to feel good.
Yeah, that's great.
It's cosmic money, man. Read my new book, Cosmic Money.
Let's see if that works for me. I mean,
dude, it's exciting.
I am really excited because like I've been so stressed out. I've been burned out like the last 9 months, and I'm excited to like go to bed not anxious, wake up not stressed.
Yeah, dude.
See what I can do. I have a short film I wrote like a year ago that I want to like finally make.
Oh, it's awesome. It's really awesome. It's going to be great. There's nothing but positive that can come out of it. And the thing is, it's somewhere in the middle. You're going to get stressed again, or you're going to feel upset or whatever, you know. But it just, because that's what happens. It always happens. Like, there's no, like, none of us are ever going to be, like, pure bliss.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of my problems is, like, this is the thing that's going to solve everything. And it's never right. Then, like, every time I do it, I'm like, all right. You got to reset. Sometimes you're allowed to feel bad sometimes.
Well, this was great, Brendan.
Thanks, bud. See you in 10 years.
Was that a witch? No, this is really great. I love you so much. You're such a joy.
Thanks, brother.
You bring light into my life.
Oh, cosmic cash.
You can sit on that cosmic money for a week. All right, you got a tail slate here.
Okay, what does that mean?
Just say your name.
Oh, Brendan Jennings.
That's great, Mike.
Thanks, dude. That was fun.
MTV and the Channel E. A thing for celebrity.
I sound like a witch. I don't know.